everybody. Welcome back to the show. I've taken a pause for about a month or so because I was traveling, but I am back to help you through your travel planning. So here we go. The last episode, I walked you through how to buy high-speed train tickets online, and I also discussed the various purchasing options. So that was the last episode. If you're planning to travel by a high-speed train during your trip to Italy, I do recommend that you go back and listen to the previous episode before listening to this episode. Now, today I want to talk about what to expect on the day of your train travel. What should you know about Italian train stations? What is the process for boarding your train? And what are some useful Italian words to know? And of course, I'll give you tips to make your high-speed train travel more relaxing. So let's get started. Some of you listeners might be thinking, wow, what a boring subject. I agree, it's not the most riveting topic, but my main goal on this show is to answer questions about these kinds of little details. These are the kind of questions that I get from people all the time. And sometimes I get frantic questions from people who are traveling by train, and it's usually at the very last minute they'll ask me questions like, wow, how does this work? What am I supposed to do? So, isn't it much better just to be prepared, to know what to expect? In my opinion, it is much better. It just makes your travel go by so much better and less stressful. First, let's talk about your tickets. Unlike airline tickets, there's no need to check in online before your departure. And also, unlike the Italian regional trains, these are the normal national trains, there's no need to validate your high-speed train tickets. So no online check-in and no need to validate your tickets beforehand. So as I mentioned, with the regional trains, you do have to validate your ticket before you get on the train. And if it's a paper ticket, there's usually some kind of validation contraption on the platform or somewhere around in the train station. All right, now let's talk about how far in advance you should arrive at the train station. Given that there are no security checks at train stations in Italy, there's no TSA, no metal detectors, no pat-downs, there's really no need to arrive hours in advance if you already have your ticket in hand. I would check online before you leave for the train station just to confirm that your train's on time. Now, if you're traveling from a smaller town, I would say arriving at the station 30 to 45 minutes before your departure time is plenty of time because it doesn't take much time to navigate your way through a small station. But if you're traveling from a larger city like Rome, Milan, Venice, I would arrive at least 1 hour before your departure time. This is just a suggestion, of course. Everyone has their own comfort zone when it comes to how much time they like to arrive before departure. If you're comfortable with less time, good for you. But you're much braver than I am. I'm a pretty cautious person, and personally, I like a nice cushion of time to orient myself, find my train, maybe pick up a snack at the bar before the train arrives. Once you arrive at the train station, the first thing you're going to do is look at the departures board. This is where knowing a little Italian train vocabulary is very, very helpful. If you're in a big city, the board will also have English on the board, but sometimes the smaller cities do not. Okay, so this is why I am giving you this information. So the word for departures in Italian is partenze. I will put all these train vocabulary words in the show notes so you can copy and paste them and put them in your phone notes, so that you can review them and maybe pull them out when you're at the train station. Partenze are departures. You're going to look at the partenze board. From left to right, you'll see the train number, and the word for train in Italian is treno. Then comes the name of the city, which is the final destination of the train. Also note that on the very left side of the board, the high-speed trains can be identified by the company name. So if you're traveling with Frecciarossa, you'll see the Frecciarossa symbol. It'll say Frecciarossa, or Italo will be written on the left-hand side, listed next to the train number. Now, I'm going to describe the board. I know this is really difficult on a podcast, so just use your imagination. Then moving right on the board, you'll see the time of departure, which in Italian is orario. Then the next column is the destination column, like I said, which names the final destination, and that is the destinazione of the train. The next column is the delay column, which is in Italian ritardo. The information column is next, and that is informazioni. And this lists the stops made by the train and other information. And finally, the last column is the platform column, and this is the binario column. So this is like an airport board, except instead of a gate, you're looking for your platform, your binario. On the board, it's abbreviated to 3 letters, BIN for binario. So you want to find your train by the time, but also check that the train number is the same as listed on your ticket. And then as you're looking at the final destination, maybe I'm traveling from Milan to Verona, and I don't see Verona on the board. And that's because that train line goes all the way to Venezia, to Venice, right? So if I find my train number and it says Venice and not Verona, don't despair. It just means that Venice is the final destination of the train. Once you find your train on the board, look further to the right to the column that I told you is for delays, ritardo. Okay, this is abbreviated RIT, and it will show you if your train is delayed. So if a number appears in that column, say you see your train, and then in the RIT column, ritardo column, there's a 15, a number 15. It means your train is delayed by 15 minutes. Pretty self-explanatory. You might be thinking, well, how often are trains delayed? How often are trains late? How reliable are high-speed trains in Italy? I would say they are the most reliable trains in the country. That's not just my opinion, it is fact. But of course, life happens, delays happen. It could be because of weather or technical issues, what have you. It does happen. So do check that column when you're at the train station. Italian high-speed trains are much more reliable than the national regional trains. So you're more likely to have a delay or a cancellation with the regional trains. All right, so far you've found your train by time and train number and checked the ritardo column, the delay column, to see if your train is delayed. The next column is the information column, in Italian, informazioni. This column will list the stops the train makes, or if the train is canceled, it will be listed here. Okay, so let's move on to the last column all the way to the right. And I already told you that this last column is the BIN column. And binario, BIN is short for binario, which means platform. This is where you're going to find your platform number. Here, I have to stop and explain that in Italy, it is perfectly normal for the binario, the platform number, not to appear in much time before your train is about to depart. Okay? So sometimes your binario number appears only 5 minutes before the train arrives. I can't tell you why it happens, but it has happened to me many, many times where you're waiting, you're looking at the board, you found your train, and there's no platform number listed, and you kind of start to panic thinking something's wrong. Don't worry. Sometimes that number appears 10 minutes, 5 minutes before your train. So don't despair. If it doesn't appear within 5 minutes of departure, go flag down someone from the train company or start asking questions. Also, it is also possible that your binario, your platform number, may change. So again, stay alert, check the board often. Stay alert in the train station. Train stations in Italy are very noisy. There's crowds of people, just like an airport. There are constant announcements, and unfortunately, you can't always hear the announcements that are being made. But if you find yourself at your assigned platform with a group of people, and then suddenly you see those people run to a different platform, it's because the platform was changed. Okay? So don't want to scare you, but just stay alert and keep your eye out for changes. All right, so we've covered how to read the departure board with all the terms. Let's review those terms again, the different columns that you'll see on the departures board. So departures in Italian, partenze, train, treno, destination, destinazione, time, orario, delay, ritardo, information, informazioni, platform, binario. That was your Italian lesson for the day. I bet you didn't know you get an Italian lesson when you started listening to this episode. All right, so you've looked at the board, found your train, it's on time, thank heavens, and you've found your platform. So now what? Now it's time to look at your ticket. If you remember from my previous episodes about train travel, all high-speed trains have assigned seating. Even if you didn't pay extra to pick your seats, you will be assigned seats. On your ticket, you'll see your assigned coach number and seat number. Once you're on the platform, you'll see that some stations indicate where you should wait depending on your coach number. So as the train pulls in, obviously coach 1 is the very first coach, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. Okay, so if the train station you're at does that It's wise to stand in that area, not necessary, but it helps, I suppose, to board quickly. Okay, so once the train arrives, note the coach numbers are indicated on the train. Obviously, you want to make sure you get into the right coach number and then find your seat. If you have smaller baggage, you can keep it with you. There's room to put carry-on baggage overhead, or use the luggage racks by the coach entrance for bigger luggage. As you might have guessed, there's no luggage fee, and your luggage doesn't get ticketed at all. At this point, you might be asking, doesn't anyone check my ticket before I get on the train? Isn't my ticket or barcode scanned before boarding? And the answer to that question is no. I know it seems strange, but no one will check your ticket before boarding. Once the train starts traveling, a conductor will come by and check your tickets. He or she will ask to see your tickets, either digital or printed is fine, and a form of ID. Therefore, it's really important that you get on the right train. I know that sounds so obvious, but I've seen it happen. I was once traveling on a high-speed train in Italy, and at a stop, an elegant Italian woman got on the train while she was talking loudly on the phone, and then the train started traveling, and she was still talking on the phone. And then suddenly, when she noticed the display screen that showed the details of the train route, and she bolted out of her seat and started screaming and crying into the phone because she was still talking on the phone. She realized, obviously, that she was on the wrong train. She went on, from what I gathered, she was going somewhere for a wedding and had just jumped on the wrong train, so she ran to find the conductor. So the moral of the story is pay attention. Confirm you're on the right train by checking the board information carefully. And then also on the outside front of the train, usually there's a train number. You can check that as well. So do these things, do your due diligence, and all will be well. Okay, once you're seated, enjoy the ride. These trains are an incredible experience. They're lightning fast and very, very comfortable. Now, depending on the type of ticket you purchase, there are different amenities on board. If you bought a business or a first class ticket, you'll be offered beverages and snacks. If not, you're still going to be comfortable. The spaces are very comfortable, and there are coffee machines and vending machines on board. As you travel, pay attention to the stops listed on the screen. There are screens at the front of every coach that show you the route and the upcoming stops. So sometimes people get distracted. Maybe you're having a conversation or reading a good book, what have you. But do pay attention. Be sure that you don't miss your stop. That's all the information I have about what to expect the day of your train travel. I hope this was helpful, and if it was, please subscribe, share, and rate the show. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you a buon viaggio. Ciao!